Hello and welcome to Stephen University. This week we're taking a look at everyone's favourite cute blue one, times 3 this week, Lapis, in the episode Why So Blue? How are you feeling, Chris? Enjoy this one? I mean, someone literally said in the Discord, like, I bet Chris is loving this. 3 Lapises. Jesus. As we all know, guys, these comments need to stop. It's out of order, because as we all know, Chris's one true love is Pearl.
No, my one true love is the real life woman I'm marrying. My cartoon loves are divided. Betty Rubble, Lapis. It's amazing how I could say something really sweet and then immediately sound
and then
creepy.
Immediately undercut it. Yeah. Also, Betty Rubble, strange choice, but cool. Go for it.
I think Betty's much prettier than Wilma. I'm just putting it out there. I know I'm in the minority, but comment down below. I personally think Betty's much prettier. I don't actually have a crush on Lapis. She is a cartoon character. But having said that, I really enjoyed the episode.
Yes. Should we recap? Do you want me to do it? Or
recap it, Dan.
Recap it.
Wait,
okay.
Why are we recapping, Dan?
We're recapping for anyone who's listening to this in the future who hasn't just seen it.
Here we are in the future.
Yeah. Every week.
Pearl Jam. Here we are in the future.
Oh God, there's a joke that won't die. Sooner the better. So the episode is called Why So Blue. Stephen and Lapis have basically wandered out to a separate planet where they've heard that there are 2 Lapises still terraforming. They're not sure if they just didn't get his message or what's going on. That they're destroying worlds, basically, and he's sort of like, you don't have to do that anymore. You know, the diamonds don't... You can do what you like. The diamonds don't rule you anymore. Yeah, and they're like, well, yeah, what we like is destroying planets, so we're going to keep doing that? And then they hit on the sticky situation of you give someone free will. If they choose to use it to hurt others, you still have free will, but maybe don't do that. It's kind of like it's a bit of a problem. So obviously Stephen has brought Lapis with him to deal with these 2 Lapises for obvious reasons. I think that explains itself. And basically they try to convince them that there are other things they can do that will make them happy other than destroying worlds. They do music and meat morphs and dancing and all this other stuff. And basically the 2 Lapises laugh in our Lapis's face and basically call her pathetic for being this way now. And she loses her temper a little bit. There's a really cool Lapis on Lapis fight, which is just like that. People have always talked about how Lapis is a bit overpowered as a gem, and you don't always get to show her full power because she'd crush most gems in a second. I mean, she can physically terraform planets. She could destroy the atmosphere of a world if she wanted to. The Lapises are extraordinarily overpowered, really. So this fight, there's no restraint because she doesn't need to, because they're all on an equal playing field. And there's a really cool fight where she's almost teaching these Lapises how to be to think a little bit more freely by showing them. By being a bit creative, they can actually use their warp powers in different ways, but they use it against her. There's a really awesome fight. Eventually, she absolutely dominates them because she's Lapis and she's awesome. And they say, okay, no more fighting, no more terraforming. After that ridiculous show of strength, we'll do anything you say. And Lapis, disappointed in herself for resorting to violence, says that wasn't strength, it was weakness. Restraint takes strength. Patience takes strength. And I don't have the strength to deal with you. And they go home pretty disappointed, pretty defeated. I mean, it looks like those 2 Lapises have been sort of almost bullied into not destroying worlds anymore, but it's not really the outcome she was hoping for. Cue one of the 2 Lapises showing up at Little Home School to learn. It's a cute little episode.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
I think that it was a great character exploration. I think that I really love that we're dealing with this. Well, what about the gems that don't want to listen plot? I loved the Lapis. I think the song was beautiful.
Yes.
I struggled for a moment with the song because I was like, we've done this story with Lapis. But I think actually it works as like a recapping of where she was and where she is, and the where she is incredibly important for the story they're telling.
Well, very quickly, not to interject while you're sort of giving your thoughts, but I will say that what I liked about the song was it was her addressing how she feels, but then offering to apply it to others, which is a different angle on her than we've had before. So before it was she was the one having to do the learning. She was in a position of growth. She was the one growing. But now it's I'd love to see your colours shining through. And while some of the stuff she touches on in the song is stuff she's learned in the past, it's actually really informative to me as an audience member to see, she's so there now. She's so in this new way of thinking. She's now inviting others in. To go from the student to the teacher is actually a surprisingly big leap. So while I do agree with you, they are touching on some of the things we know Lapis has already learnt, showing someone else that lifestyle actually sets it a bit beyond that. She is no longer the student of that lifestyle now. She's there. She's living it. She's the teacher. And I think that's actually very powerful, because that suggests a certain level of mastery over her feelings and her place in the world that she definitely didn't have last time we saw her. So while it is a little bit recapping her arc, I think it actually does a great deal to push her forward too, or at least give us a better sense of how far she's come since we last got to spend time with her properly. Because obviously, yes, she's been present in the episode so far. We've seen her once or twice, and I'm sure she was present in the movie quite a bit. We've not really got to see where she's up to, emotionally speaking, since the show.
That's fair.
So I got a lot out of the song for that reason as well. Sorry to interrupt. Carry on.
No, I think that's a fair response to what I said. I think that's absolutely valid. In conclusion, I really enjoyed this episode. There was nothing really. It was again just a great balance. There was nothing I didn't particularly enjoy. So yeah, it was all good. Yeah, I think my favourite moment was I was watching it on headphones. Because I was trying to, let Jess get some more sleep. And I just randomly heard her go, "Why are they all blue?" And I was like, "Huh?" She's like, "Why are they blue?" I was like, "Because these gems are blue. You should really watch the show. It's a great show." And she's like, "I don't want to watch the show." I'm like, "It's great. Watch the show." So yeah.
The next time she asks you a question like that, Chris, why are they all blue? How about you just watch the show to find out? I'm not answering.
Yeah. It would only take you 130 odd episodes to find out, yes. Or however many it is.
I mean, at a certain point, is she not like
way more than that? Actually, isn't it? If Bismuth was the 100th episode.
Yeah, God, if we're adding that with everything that came after that, plus these episodes and the movie, yeah, it's a chunk. We're on 100. We'd be on about 160 odd, 170 odd now, I think.
I think it's over 180. But anyway, carry on.
No, it can't be, because we number our episodes alongside it.
So what are we on?
We were 100.
I'll look it up whilst.
I can tell you right now, a very special episode.
We're on 166. Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, with the movie was 160.
Yeah.
And we had so we're on about 160. We're somewhere between 160 and 170, depending on how you divide Change Your Mind. Whether you call it 4 episodes or not. Some people have said production-wise it was technically 4, so they've divided it out that way. That's semantics to me. It's one piece of content, so I count it as one. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, cool.
It's interesting to me actually. I had a weird experience with this. So of the two, when I finished watching them live last night, because I got the live feeding from Cartoon Network. I went to America. And I watched them live. That's why it took me so long to get back from work. Got a bus to America. Sorry. Oh, my bus journey was ridiculous last night.
No wonder you were travelling to America.
Exactly. It was the underwater part was the scariest. I did really think the pressure of the ocean would eventually break the glass. But those London buses, man, they are sturdy. It takes a lot to take them out. Anyway, I talked about this on the last episode, but for those who didn't hear, my opinion on these episodes flipped overnight. So having watched them both last night, I was unsure exactly how much I enjoyed the first of these two episodes, which was Snow Day. And this one, I was like, that was brilliant. I loved every minute of that. And then when I woke up this morning, I rewatched them before doing this because I like to have seen them at least twice, just to sort of one time just to enjoy it and take it in the more natural way, and then a second time to go through it with a bit more of an eye for detail. You sometimes pick up stuff you didn't realize. But I came out of the second viewing feeling much more positive about Snow Day and having a slight misgiving about this one. Mm-hmm. And the slight misgiving is quite simply that the idea is so good that I don't know if this episode did it enough justice. The dilemma of when you give someone free will, there are big downsides to that because not everyone thinks and feels and has the same moral compass as you. If we didn't have laws as a society, there are people who would just go around murdering. We know this because there are people who do that in spite of laws. So, and I'm not comparing these lapises to. Well, I mean, I kind of am. I suppose they're destroying planets with life on them. So I guess they are kind of murdering in a way. Maybe not intelligent life, but still life, nonetheless. I know a lot of people just draw that distinction, which is why I brought it up. So I was like, what a great, powerful idea. And the fact that it was tied into the Lapis sort of growth element and the, you can do something else with your life idea of it, and this idea of trying to get them to seek redemption, it kind of muddied it a bit for me, and I feel like we didn't get to explore that initial dilemma because it got a little sideswiped with you could do music instead, you could do this instead. What actually happens when Stephen is genuinely forced to make a decision about something like that? These guys came round relatively quickly. Lapis just made a giant version of herself out of water, and they went, all right, you're stronger than us, we'll stop, we'll quit it. But I really wanted to see what would happen when Stephen was actually pushed, not Lapis, but Stephen was pushed to make a decision about gems he set free that are doing bad things. And when we talked about this episode based on the synopsis, that was the thing I talked about. I was like, oh, that's such a good idea. What will he do? What's the solution to that dilemma? And while it was, I think as an episode, it is an extraordinarily satisfying, well put together episode. But there's a concept in it which I think deserved more play than it got here. And I'm worried we won't go back to it now because we've kind of done it. Does that make sense?
I think that's fair enough. And I think that, the conclusion was almost a little too easy. But then again, they do slight counter. Just trying to think of one. They do. Stephen and Lapis do leave, kind of going, well, might have worked, might not have worked. But it did work for the wrong reasons. It shouldn't have worked because they're scared of Lapis.
Well, yeah, I mean,
do you know what I mean? By trying to do all elements of it, you're in a position where, and I know that the making it work isn't necessarily what you wanted to explore in the first place, but because you're trying to do so much, no element is perhaps served as strongly as it would have been if you'd have just focused on individual elements.
Sure. I think that's maybe a little bit it. I will also say as well, I think this episode is actually a brilliant piece of Steven Universe television. It's a really good 10 minutes of TV. I think it's a little unfair to levy this criticism at it, but it's more a criticism of missed opportunity than it is a criticism of the content, because I actually don't think I enjoyed the episode less on my initial viewing as a result of that at all, because I still think the episode is very well constructed. The fight's awesome. The song was great. The ideas are all good. I think it's a weird sort of, almost like in hindsight, I'm slightly disappointed that the episode didn't get to explore idea X and idea Y more thoroughly than it did. So it's more disappointment about what the episode couldn't get to than it is an actual criticism of the content of the episode. It's a really weird place to be, because I feel like it's not really fair. It's not a fair criticism, because if the show was going to be longer and I knew they could come back to these ideas, I don't think I'd feel that way. So it's really not the episode's fault, because this would be just foreshadowing of a potential. Okay, let's live in a world for a second where they haven't already told us that this show is a limited series. Where we don't already know that the production is completely shut down. We know that everyone who worked on this has packed up the offices and it's gone. They're not making this show anymore. It's done. In terms of where we are right now, the storyboard artists, the musicians, they've all posted Twitter things by Steven Universe. They've done it. We know that they've finished. So we know this show isn't going on indefinitely, whether it is 10 or 20 or whatever, just to get ahead of the bloody comments. We know it's limited. And in a world where that's the case, I'm not sure they're coming back to this. So it's almost not the episode's fault, because in a show where we didn't know that, and it could theoretically go on for multiple seasons, it wouldn't have even been part of the discussion. Because I would be like, well, this is like the first hint that in the wider world that this problem exists. What's going to happen when Steven faces an enemy that doesn't give in quite so easily? You know, that'd be like, ooh, a tease for the future.
And that's definitely a plot line, by the way, that I personally want.
Yeah. It's a huge question. It's a big question. And what will he do when he comes across an enemy he can't convince? Because that was what they set up White as, and in the end he changed her mind too, which is okay, cool. But what does he do when he comes up against someone whose mind cannot be changed, and someone who doesn't want to step out of doing it the old way? That's got to come up at some point, right?
Yeah, and I kind of, because they could do that with Jasper. They could do it with another big bad villain. But I think it would have been especially interesting to do it with some Lapises, because of the position that our Lapis is in as well.
Yes, and she was one of the more stubborn of Steven's sort of the people Steven brought round. She was one of the more stubborn. Her moment of finally stepping up and fighting the Diamonds took a lot longer to get to than Peridot calling Yellow Diamond a clod or whatever.
I think you could easily make an argument that Lapis's arc is one of the most detailed arcs in the show, with both in the sense of it being a truly complete, rounded arc, and also the amount of time that's been spent to it as well. I think that, without a doubt for me, we've not only was she one of the most challenging, but it's one where we've explored that the most as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree. So I'm on board with what you were saying. I think doing it with the Lapises would have made sense, because our Lapis turned out to be quite a stubborn person and quite a difficult person to change the mind of. So it would make sense that other Lapises might have a similar attitude, because obviously the Homeworld tends to try and Homeworld in its second era really did push for these gems to think and feel similarly. They wanted uniformity in their gems. They didn't want imperfections. They wanted the gems to do what they did. So it makes sense that gems from Era 2 would have similar difficulties getting over certain things, and the idea that what happens when you've got a Lapis that's just as stubborn as our Lapis, but hasn't even gone through the trauma that helped her get around it, then you're really stuck. That idea in itself is that's fascinating.
And the characterization, well, then again, I suppose, I think it's interesting as well to go, what you said earlier about the Lapis gem is incredibly strong. I know it's hard to compare the characterization of these two Lapises to ours, because ours was trapped in a mirror for so many years and went through all of that, which affected her character so deeply. Mm-hmm. These Lapises are, I don't know for sure if I feel this way, but I think someone could make the case that these Lapises are played for comic effect and played down, the whole, that's much quicker than what we were doing. Yes. You could I think someone could make an argument that they're a bit lighter and aren't as tough themselves as that gem's been made out to be in the past.
Yeah, but I do think that some of that is because the Lapis obviously we met was much tortured when we met her.
Like I say,
I think that is the explanation for that. But you can argue. I mean, that makes this episode a lot of fun. I really enjoyed these two Lapises. I think they were a lot of fun, and that moment where they're like, in fact, all the moments where them trying to teach them to be a bit more themselves made them more creative, but in terms of how they were destroying the planet, like, oh, we can destroy the planet more creatively, and that's not really what we were getting at. Like, that is a really funny way to play that. I think it's very good. It's just like I said, and it's not really this episode or the show's fault. It's just the circumstances surrounding it really make this criticism a thing, which is just that I think there's a really strong idea in the core about the pitfalls of true free will and what you do when you want to try and make sure that people do what they want as long as it doesn't hurt others, and that is the caveat to free will, isn't it? Like it's such a complex idea. Maybe it's too complex for Steven Universe. I don't know. I don't feel like it is, though, because they dealt with so many other very complicated ideas in this show. I don't think there's anything this show isn't capable of tackling.
I wanted this episode to build to a point where Steven had to make a choice.
Yes, to see what he would do.
To bubble or not to bubble, or to leave alone, or to fight or not to fight. And I wanted... And don't get me wrong, like, basically, instead of making Steven make that choice and making this about Steven, they made it about Lapis, and they made it about her realising that she's not that person anymore, and her putting down the sword, or the water, as it was.
Yes. Or the water-shaped spear.
And that's
the right choice for this character in this context, in this episode, for sure. The question becomes a wider question of, if you're only going to get to tackle this the once, was this the right way to tackle it in a world that you forced yourself into dealing with it from the Lapis perspective instead of the Steven perspective?
Yeah.
So there's a question about the initial conceit, I think, of this episode, and whether those bigger ideas should have maybe been saved for a more Steven-centric episode. I'm not sure. What I thought was really interesting about these two Lapises, actually, moving on from that sort of criticism, I don't want to harp on that whole episode because it's really not a huge part of my it's definitely something that's occurred to me since, but like there are this was still a really great episode. I don't want anyone to think otherwise. What I thought was interesting about this episode was the characterization of these two Lapises. So there was a slightly paler Lapis with I'm trying to think of how to describe them with sort of like I'm trying to describe the hair. I thought describing the hair would be the answer, but that's not helping me. There's one with. Does one have like it might be a better way to say one of them has slightly Betty Rubble hair, but I don't think that helps either.
That's not going to help me if you want to get coherent short thoughts from me for the rest of the episode.
Let's have a look. Oh,
a little Betty Lapis fusion. You kidding me?
So, rather than describing them, I'll describe how they behave, and that'll help. So, there's two gems, two Lapises. One of them, which is the one that ultimately does come to Little Homeworld, shows signs of not being 100% on board with this earlier in the episode. She dances. But also, when the other one insults our Lapis first. So there's a moment when Lapis sings, and the one that doesn't come to Little Homeworld at the end says to Steven, "You've already got a Lapis doing what you want, and look how dull it's made her. Or was she always this pitiful?" is added by the second one that does come to Little Homeworld. So it's almost like a peer pressure thing, almost, where like she wasn't going to say anything, but the other one got there, and she's like, "Well, I've got to join in." So it seems to be of these two Lapises, one of them is certainly almost the leader of the two, and the other one is kind of following. It feels a little bit like,
and maybe having only one appear at the end means we might return to this. I still don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that we're going to get some sort of the villains unite thing, and maybe the other one joins Jasper, and that could be that could give us a bit more of that other side of things later on.
Well, and Bluebird Azurite is still out there as well. Keep in mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that could be it. Maybe this is all building to just a little Sinister Six situation. For those who aren't familiar with the lore of Spider-Man, there's a group in the Spider-Man universe, different lineups over the years, but the Sinister Six is basically a team of 6 of Spider-Man's foes. For some reason, always 6. And it varies which guys are and aren't on that team. Typically, though, like Doc Ock and Green Goblin and Mysterio's definitely been part of that lineup. Scorpion's often part of the lineup. Kraven has and hasn't been. Of all the Spidey villains, Electro has definitely been part of the Sinister Six. Rhino, Scorpion. So yeah, there's a mixture of those. Vulture as well has always made up that. So maybe that's where this is going. Maybe this is a. Like they're all going to sort of meet up in space and be like, right, this Steven guy's a problem. Let's go deal with him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that'd be a whole lot of fun.
But what would be interesting about that would be one of the Lapises obviously came to Little Homeworld, Little Homeschool. So I'm wondering, there's 2 ways that plays out for me. One is she's on Steven's side now, and those 2 Lapises end up fighting that used to be buddies, or. The other one was like, go and suss this out because we're gonna cause them some trouble later down the line. You go there.
I'd struggle to see that because of
the
setup.
land.
I think if you're gonna do that, you wouldn't have done the setup of her dancing and stuff.
Yes, that's fair.
You could do that's what she thinks she's doing. She's like, oh, you go and set the lay of the land, but she, instead of setting the lay of the land, is going to fall on the side of good. So you could do that maybe.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That is fair. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not against that though. If they do an ultimate like all the villains show up episode, that could be fun. And maybe that will be the moment they finally push Steven and go, now what? Like maybe that is what this is all building to. Like what happens?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting whether we get like ultimate Pink Steven or whether we get the Avengers. The Avengers shot and then the Avengers Endgame shot where all the homeschool gems and all the other, the diamonds and all of that stuff sort of appears. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Oh, there you go. So, I mean, in terms of other little bits and bobs, how cute were those little leaf alien things that live on that planet?
Oh, they were great. They were adorable. Want one as a pet.
Me too. Just in general, they especially when they like all flower out, like they all spread and they're all like the different colors inside. That's very cute. Worth noting.
I don't want a pet, even a cute little alien leaf flower thing.
You don't? No, you're not a pet guy, are you?
Nope, teddy bear guy, Dan.
No, that's fine. I mean, your heart is made of coal.
It's not because of I've got affection for people and teddy bears. Got my friend's 1-month-old little teddy bear yesterday, little snowman for Christmas. The most adorable teddy bear snowman, one of the most adorable teddy bear snowmans I've ever seen. And I'll be honest with you, Dan, I don't think she showed much appreciation for it. I nearly took it off her.
I was just about to say, did you nearly want to take it back?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Dan, she can barely even see. So what's the point? It's wasted on her.
Well, I'll tell you, Chris, what the point is. When were you giving Teddy Tom, your Teddy?
When I was a bit older.
Did you understand and appreciate Teddy Tom from minute 1?
Instantly, Dan.
Is that right?
Oh, no, apparently. My mum told me a story the other day that completely changed my origins of Teddy Tom a little bit, which upset me a little bit. I thought I view it as an instant teddy bear connection, teddy bear young boy connection. But apparently, according to my mum, and I can't work out if she's, just embellishing, that might not be the case, Dan.
Tell me, what's the real story?
So no, my mum's interpretation, and not the real story, is that I had a Spot the dog that I carried everywhere.
He said, she said. Go on.
I had a Spot the dog or another teddy that I carried everywhere, and that teddy was equally, not in a great way in terms of like they'd been in the garden and stuff like that. And I was going into hospital, and Mum didn't to have like I think adenoids taken out or something. And my mum was like, because he was dirty, didn't really want the teddy bear to go in the hospital environment, maybe, but also like didn't want me to lose it. So my mum basically said to me, "Oh, you don't want to lose this bear." I think it was probably that thing, or they were worried like that the bear was like affecting my eczema or something like that. So my mum basically took the opportunity to be like, well, instead of losing this bear at the hospital, why don't you take this bear, and gave me Teddy Tom to take to the hospital. And then Mum thinks that it was because that Teddy Tom was then the bear that was with me during the hospital, and was a comfort to me then, that then formed a bond, and he then became the bear.
Interesting. That's very possible.
It is possible. I see her logic. I don't like to think of that being the case, but yeah.
One of my favourites is there's an old VHS of my sister as a toddler being given at Christmas a new doll. Like a new toy doll, baby. This is in the in the 90s when that's what you got little girls, preparing them for their lives of servitude and motherhood. The usual. So she got this new baby doll thing, and she picked it up very carefully, and she put it on in her arm like you'd carry a baby. She walked over to the toy pram she had where her old doll was. She reached into the pram, grabbed the old doll by the hand, flung it over her shoulder, and then lovingly put the new one in the pram. It's the best thing ever. And it's on video. It's amazing. She just launches this thing over her shoulder, doesn't even look back, just like, off you go. In goes the new one. It's one of that's
the quicker, harsher version of Toy Story, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just the most comical thing. What's mostly good about it is how delicate she's being with Noodle. Because she's imagining that is a real baby. Whereas the other doll, that's an inanimate object. That's a piece of shit. It's done. Over the shoulder it goes. Gently lower the new one in. It's a great video. It's on VHS, sadly, and my parents have it somewhere, I hope. One day I'll dig that out and like share it with the world. It's great. It's so funny.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
But cute leaf animal. What other triv we got?
We don't. Yeah, not so much in the terms of triv, but a few little details that I noticed. Obviously, there's a little reference to Meat Morp, which is obviously the name that they use for art, which is good. I wrote down the pitiful line, the creative with the powers thing, giant water Lapis. Oh yeah, I love that Lapis says, "Who's dull now? Who's pitiful now?" Which is just fantastic. One thing I did note down is that's not how terraforming works. By the way, terraforming isn't just destroying. I mean, I guess it depends on what planet they get to. So, like, terraforming is making the planet suitable for. I guess the gem version of terraforming. So, from a human perspective, let me just backtrack a little bit so I make more sense of this. From a human perspective, terraforming is making a planet inhabitable to humans, right? So, for us, I guess that means creating an atmosphere, plants, food sources, water sources, all that jazz, right? Mm-hmm. I guess for gems, which can survive in space and all that stuff, it's more about just clearing the space so that they can put the gem injectors in. So my criticism was going to be, it's not really terraforming what they're doing. But I guess from a gem perspective it is. Because I guess they're just clearing house to make room for the kindergartens.
Which is never coming.
Well, in this case, never coming. Era 2 over, no longer, the sort of gem monarchy, or whatever you want to call it, the gem... the gem government is gone. Someone had a really good name for it this morning. I saw on our Discord, and I've forgotten what it was. I'll see if I can remember as we go. But I was gonna say that's not really how terraforming works. But I guess what's just hit me is I guess terraforming would be different to each species, depending on your requirements for what you need to turn the planet into.
Yeah, and how you've defined it. Yeah.
Oh, Gempire. That was it.
Gempire's good.
Yeah, someone called it the Gempire. I was like, that's pretty good. I think that was Cram, actually. I give credit to Cram. If it wasn't Cram, I'm sorry to whoever, but I'm pretty sure it was Cram. Anyway, so I thought that was their version of terraforming just seems to be like chopping up rocks, which was a bit weird to me, but now it makes sense. I also noted down the dirty look that the other Lapis gives to the dancing Lapis when she's dancing. She stops when the other one throws her a little glance. I think that might actually be. No, is that everything?
Yeah, and I felt bad at her for that. I was like, you keep dancing, girl.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, it was a bit harsh, wasn't it?
I think that's everything. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. And I think that it explored some really cool things. I completely agree with you about, there's another way to explore those things. But it wasn't a very special episode. So
literally and figuratively.
I'm all in.
There are a couple of notes here, actually. I've just noticed that there are in the trivia.
Cool.
Zach and Jennifer Paz are the only voices in the entire episode, which I didn't think about, but yeah, that's absolutely true. The nice Lapis has golden freckles, which is how I should have differentiated them earlier. One of them has golden freckles. This is actually a specific reference, though, to the pyrite specks that you get on real-life lapis lazuli gems.
Oh, cool.
So that's very nice.
That's cool. I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I mean, it did happen, and it is weird, and I don't know. Have you got a computer in front of you?
I have.
So after this episode, Googled lapis lazuli because I was very intrigued as to. I wanted to compare this design to the original design for our lapis because I was like, as I said it before, I love that her star is kind of there but not there and loosely formed.
I've just googled lapis lazuli and I think I know what you're about to bring up. Go on.
Right, so you get that too. Like, if you just Google lapis lazuli and don't put Steven Universe, you get some images of the gem, the actual gem lapis lazuli. But I mean, the first thing that pops up is the gem and the stone molded into something quite inappropriate, and I was just like, huh? So yeah.
I think weird, that must be a UK. Is that a UK thing? Yeah.
Oh, because it's a purchase thing.
Yeah. So basically, someone has put a phallically carved lapis lazuli on the UK version of eBay.
And so this might not even happen if people Google it, like, in the future. Here we are in the future. Yeah, it's weird.
I don't even know if I can't put that image on screen.
No, but it's bad, people. It's weird.
Yeah, an advert for eBay has come up where someone is selling lapis lazuli shaped like a part of a human anatomy.
Weird people.
I've just had the same experience as Chris because obviously also being in the UK and that's clearly something that's just popped up on eBay and Google and eBay must have some sort of ad thing going on at the moment. So there you go. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Someone's keen to sell that for Christmas, it would seem.
Yeah. What else? Oh, yeah, this is an interesting note in here, actually. I mean, I don't think this is trivia. This is just a thing that happened in the episode, but it's something we've not yet talked about. It is revealed, I'm going to read it as it's written in the trivia. It's not trivia. It's revealed that, even after 2 years, Lapis still is against fusion and believes it to be a prison. I thought that was very interesting and surprising, because, so much of the show has been about relationships and how fusions represent relationships and how they're positive things. It's interesting to think Lapis still feels. I know why. For her, it was an abusive relationship, but I mean, is that the equivalent of somebody being in an abusive relationship and then thinking relationships are all bad forever? That's quite a dark place to be.
I didn't personally interpret it that way. I viewed the song as saying She was in a mirror, which was prison, and then she was in a fusion, which was also prison. I didn't view it as her thinking Garnet's in a prison or fusion in general is bad or prison like. Personally, I completely saw that as being about her experience of it in that specific example.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Should we pull up? Have we got the lyrics somewhere? Can I get the lyrics?
Yeah, pull up the lyrics.
Let's see. Shining Through is the name of the song. Let's see what she says exactly. I'm tired of the fighting. I'm tired of the blame. That mirror was a prison and fusion was the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that mirror, as in that mirror I was trapped in, was a prison. And fusion was the same, as in that fusion I was in was the same.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. I don't think that. Yeah, it's just because there's no that for the purposes of the cadence and rhythm of the song. That mirror was a prison, and fusion was the same. As in, for me, that experience was a prison. It's because the word "that" isn't in the second sentence that people might be interpreting that way, but I think it's implied.
Yeah, but if she went to Portugal and had a bad time, she'd say that mirror was a prison and Portugal was the same. She wouldn't say that mirror was a prison and that trip to Portugal was the same. See what I mean?
Well, she would if she wanted to be clearer, but it wouldn't be very good for a song because it would. It's too many syllables.
No. I don't know. Maybe semantics, but that was not my personal interpretation of the situation.
No, and looking at it, I don't think it's mine either. I hadn't. It did occur to me in the moment of like, oh, that's a bit. Oh, she's still not on board with fusion. But like looking at it in the lyrics as a whole, no, I don't think so.
Yeah,
that was a great song though.
Cool.
I loved the song.
Brilliant song.
I think I might have liked it more than Distant Shore, her previous song.
Yeah, I think it was a nice summary. Here's before. Well, if you got finished the triv, and then I'll pose my final question.
You know what? There might not be any more triv, Chris. Let me just double check. No. Oh, actually, sorry. The music style of Shining Through greatly resembles that of bossa nova, especially the beat and the piano. It's a style of music. Brazilian music specifically. I didn't know. Never specifically thought of it as being Brazilian. But there you go.
Nice. Cool.
It's like a fusion of samba and jazz.
Speaking of fusions, that's just quickly, just to round us off. Obviously, if it is not many episodes, regardless of 10, 16, 24, whatever. And this is kind of our main Lapis episode of Steven Universe Future.
Mm-hmm.
Are you pleased we did this because we explored some interesting things, or are you gutted to miss Lapis? Lapis fuses and it's a more pleasant experience, and she realizes that she can fuse with someone again, or how does Lapis, given what she went through in a previous fusion, deal with a new fusion? Because I think that would have been. That's probably a plot. And again, that's not a criticism of this episode to go, I'd have preferred this episode. So this isn't criticizing the episode. This is, hypothetically speaking,
mm-hmm.
What would you choose that? Well, yeah.
I wouldn't, but not for the reasons you're thinking. I think for Lapis, yes, I would like to see that. To see her in a functional and healthy relationship, because that's what you want for everyone who's been in an abusive relationship. But that would be stepping on the toes of what I think the next plot for Peridot should be. I think Peridot fusing with someone would really cap off her arc of getting out of the homeworld view on fusion and the homeworld view on those kinds of relationships. I think the Peridot episode that kind of not completed her arc, but was a big part of the final stages of her transformation, was when Garnet offered to fuse with her. And it didn't happen because she wasn't ready, but it was very clear that she was no longer sort of disgusted with Garnet's existence. And that was a big step for Peridot, and it's been such an important part to her arc. I wouldn't want a Lapis story to step on the toes of that, because I think it's more important for Peridot's arc than it is for Lapis's, personally.
Unless, of course, Lapis fused with Peridot and they did both.
You finished my thought for me. Yes, that was going to be my next thought, which is that for me, while I do, as I pointed out, want to see Lapis in a healthy relationship, that's more of a just so I get her happy ending, not because it completes an arc. Does that make sense? Whereas for Peridot, it would actually complete her arc. So I think there is a potential version of this show, an episode of this show going forward, somewhere within the whatever, how many episodes are left, where Peridot and Lapis might fuse. And I think that would be a big moment for me. And I would get a lot out of that. Personally, both for seeing Lapis finally in a happy, functional, healthy relationship, because she deserves that. She really does. She's been, as a character, she's been through so much misery. Like, give her some win. Just give her a win. But also for Peridot to finally sort of put a stamp on, like, she's ready and she's chosen someone special to do it with. She's not just going to do it with anyone. She's gonna fuse, and she's gonna fuse with someone that personally means something to her. And she waited for the idea that she waited for the right person to come along is really a sweet idea. And yeah, I think I would get I'd get a real kick out of that. I think that would have a real emotional weight for me as a long-time viewer and fan of the show. I think that's so. In answer to your question, if I'm answering it just directly of do I want that episode, the answer is no, but not for the reasons that you might think. Only because I worry it would, if they'd have done a Lapis fusion, it would have maybe stepped on the toes of an ultimate Peridot fusion.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cool. Fair enough.
Do we want a Bismuth episode as well? What's left to tick off for you on this? Like, let's very quickly. Anything like, I mean, so I've talked about wanting a Peridot fusion. I definitely want some Bismuth. I want to see what Bismuth is up to. What else is left? Nephrite. We've talked about Nephrite. We want Steven to have some sort of relationship with Nephrite. That's really important. So what's left?
I think great question. First of all, Nephrite. Yeah, absolutely. I always want more Peridot, Lapis, and Bismuth. I think Bismuth and Lapis and their history, and whether that's going to get brought up, realised, addressed. I've never really known what angle to take on that because they're such good friends that I wouldn't want to cause a rift between them. But I, do want it explored in some way. I think you're right about a Peridot fusion. I think some Connie and Stephen clarity. Whether they're... more Connie in general.
Where is Connie?
She's studying. She's just studying.
Hashtag where's Connie? What?
Yeah. So some Connie and Stephen in general, but some Connie and Stephen clarity. On are they friends? Are they more than friends? All that stuff. I'd love to see Pearl in a bit of a relationship. I think that would be wonderful to see. I think too much time has gone past, as we've said on this podcast before. I don't think it needs to be the rock and roll chick. I think she, viewing her as the rebound crush is quite a nice way to look at that.
Just Pearl learning that she can move on and like that it's fine, and also letting go of someone who is so visually similar to Rose. That was kind of symbolic to me, like the idea that she could just talk to her, get the number, and then actually be like, "No, I'm okay." That's actually a big step for Pearl. We talked about this a few times. In the moment, I certainly wanted her to come back, Mystery Girl, whatever her name is, whether she is called Sabine or not, we don't yet know. But yeah,
Jasper. Obviously, what's going on with Pink Steven. I wouldn't mind knowing what's in that chest.
Yeah, I wrote down the chest while you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you. I reminded myself to, when you finished, to mention the chest. I wrote that down.
Lars and Sadie. I think there's more to do there as well. I like the idea of them being settled, but they, I can't see a world where they can necessarily be a couple in a no. If you're gonna make Lars, I'd like more on Lars on the bakery. I'd like to know that Lars is completely happy not being a space pirate. And if you make Lars in the bakery work, maybe that would be amazing. Oh god, mate, my heart would melt if we had an episode where Steven literally is saying that to Lars. Steven is like, "You're a space pirate. Why are you happy? Why are you now doing a bakery? Were you scared of being a space pirate? That seemed to make you who you are. Why are you now all about that bakery life?" And Steven, maybe he's trying to thinks he needs to be something more. And then maybe at the end, Sadie comes back and Lars reveals that he was all about that bakery life because one day he was hoping Sadie would return or something like that. I don't know. You'd have to really do some work to make that work and not contradict any previous character stuff. But
or maybe he's all about that. Or maybe he's all about that bakery life because it keeps him on Earth and he's actually in a relationship with Sadie. And when she returns from touring. They spend time together.
Yeah, that's great too. That's awesome. Definitely. Lars
that'd be a great idea, interpretation of independent together as well. Like the idea that they're a couple, but they're not dependent on each other. They don't need each other to function. They both have a thing they do with their lives, and then they return to each other. I mean, that's very much within the show's themes, the independent together idea.
Yeah,
so
that's good. Spinel.
Yeah, Spinel and the Diamonds. We'll probably. I mean, that's the one I'm pretty confident we're gonna get just because of the intro.
Yeah.
That's the one of these I'm confident that's happening. I'm less confident we're gonna get the Peridot, Bismuth, any sort of explanation of Pumpkin, any more exploration of Lars and Sadie, the chest, Connie. Question mark.
What's the mayor up to?
What's Nana 4 doing these days?
Why are the rubies so harmed? So yeah, there's a whole bunch. I think if we're talking big guns, what was going on with that other pearl was a huge one. So to get that was amazing. Volleyball, I think, is most people's favourite, including mine, because of one, how rich it was, but also how rewarding. You almost breathed a sigh of relief of like, oh sweet, we got exactly what we wanted with this. Brilliant.
And it was left open enough that a lot of people have interpreted that as they're in a relationship now. So, I suppose if you did want Pearl to have the ending where she's, I didn't interpret it that way, and we talked about it. I know you didn't either, Chris. But for the people who want that ending,
you know what? I nearly said when I was talking about Pearl getting some form of relationship or love life, I nearly then said, if it's other Pearl, fine, but confirmation of that would be lovely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's pretty similar to my list.
Just a few things that this show's got to do
in an unknown number of
8 episodes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, I've said this previously, but for those who are hoping for 50, they weren't in production long enough for it to be 50, and they've stopped. So it's such a shame. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. That's the other thing we haven't said previously. Just to clarify here, we wish to be wrong on this.
I think we have absolutely said that. I think give me 4. I'd love 4 seasons. I'd love 5 seasons. We're not saying it because we want to feel smug. Because if they turn around, if 10 wraps this up and they go, right, 10's all you're getting, I promise you, my first reaction is not going to be, I said that might happen. My first reaction is going to be thinking about the list I've just named and going, oh, balls, and annoyance that we didn't know going into it. It was that.
That keeps being the issue. Have you noticed that consistently the issue has just quite simply been communication? How much of our conversation has been dominated by, it could be this, but there's only 10, or maybe there isn't only 10, we don't know. And then how much of our conversation of change your mind was dominated by, is this the end of the show? I don't think so. As far as we know, they're making season 6. I mean, they're doing voice recordings and stuff, so it can't be the end of the show, but it feels like the end of the show. It's a bit weird. So many of our criticisms and observations about this show in these last the last few episodes of the actual show and the episodes that we've had so far, this has been dominated by bullshit that's only bullshit because Cartoon Network won't just outright say what's happening.
Yeah. And I myself have said, oh yeah, but Cartoon Network, Cartoon Network and the creators wouldn't do this. They wouldn't just air it and not they'd make a big deal of the ending for ratings and stuff. And I absolutely believe that from Cartoon Network's perspective. But the counter argument to that, and I'm not necessarily making it, I'm just saying that even though I've said that, I acknowledge there is a counter argument that when you think about creators that have had so much involvement over all of a thing and been the absolute lead director for that thing, you don't have to look far to find an example of someone that just ended it suddenly out of nowhere. Which is obviously Robert Kirkman and the Walking Dead comics, who was as a bigger part of that, of what they created there, of what he created there, as Rebecca Sugar. It is feasible that they want to use the same logic that he used when he just went, right, this is the last edition, by the way, and no one knew that was coming. It is feasible. I don't say it's likely. I'm not saying I want it. I'm saying it's feasible.
Yeah, and also, I mean, you can even look in this within. You don't have to look far in the same genre. Gravity Falls. Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, animated show over on the Disney Channel, I think, just ended it in season 2 all of a sudden because he was burnt out, and that show just bombed to an ending out of nowhere. Like it was such a slow build, and then suddenly the show just dive bombed to its ending even more abruptly than Steven Universe has. And out of nowhere, it was like, here's an episode explaining all the backstory, and now here's the ending of the show. And it was like, wait, what just happened? Like it was headache inducing. Wow. It was such a sudden turn. And it's a shame because the stuff they revealed, I was like, wow, this stuff would have been so powerful had it been slowly eked out over 3 or 4 more seasons. But yeah, just, so you don't have to look far to see that. But also, we have a history of it in Steven Universe. The show ended without us knowing it was ending. The show ended, guys, and we didn't know it. We had no idea. We're
not wrong.
I can't express how messed up if this is being scheduling wise. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But
but for those massive lists, I obviously hope we're wrong.
Yeah, because there's at least 10 more things that we want them to tackle. Let's hope they get to them. Particularly I think like the Peridot, the chest, the chest only because that'll bug me forever. And it also, if they don't deal with the chest forever, as someone who's a member of the fandom and goes on the Reddit and has a Discord and is doing a podcast on the show, I will forever read comments about that damn chest if they don't answer it. So I mostly just don't want to have to see speculation on the chest for the rest of my life.
I can't see a world where they don't have an answer for it. Like the beauty of the running joke in Gavin and Stacey, which is what happened on the camping trip. For me, the beauty of that is it's so clear that the creators themselves don't know and don't want to know, and they just have fun with like chucking in random stuff. Yes. And like it's so clear for me that there isn't an answer to that. Whereas with this, I feel like they have an answer. Yes. So,
let's do it. So yeah,
tell us.
So that's where we're at. Obviously, It's going to be a couple of weeks now till we come back to do the next 2 episodes. Unfortunately, apologies about that. It's just they're airing over Christmas, and that is scheduling wise problematic. It's kind of a miracle we've been able to record these, to be honest with you. The schedule's just lined up in a very fluky sort of way, but with that said, obviously do return.
I will say, credit to us a little bit, but you especially. Like, in order to do these, Dan's had no sleep, and we've pushed them around, and we've changed plans, and we've I literally I'm not. And again, Dan has done more, but I can't, give the specifics. It's not fair for me to give the specifics of examples for Dan. Today is my only day. I'm not seeing my family on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or Boxing Day. I'm seeing them today, and I'm seeing them much later, so that we could record a podcast. Like we didn't see him last night and stay over for this reason. And I'm not playing a tiny violin. I'm just saying that when Dad says it's a miracle that we've been able to do these, like it's a miracle of Dan more than anyone's making, of moving time around and not sleeping and editing and all of that sort of stuff. So just a Boxing Day thank you from me to you for that, Dan. And a big apologies, but that's the reality of why we can't get the next ones up immediately.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, I think the same is true of yourself. I think you've also made a lot of sacrifices to make this function. So I think we've both had to sort of like, these episodes came around at just the most inopportune time for us personally, and that's no one's fault. It's not like Rebecca Sugar was looking at our diary and going, right, let me make a call to Cartoon Network, see if we can push this up and screw these guys over. It's obviously just the way it's worked out, and that is unfortunate. But we
all that to say sorry, you won't get the next ones right away. Thank
you all for sticking with us on these. So yeah, now we got 2 more episodes left. We got Little Graduation and Prickly Pear. We'll hopefully be tackling those early in the new year, as early as possible. I promise we won't make you wait for the sake of it. We'll as soon as we can do them, we will do them. But right now, there's a big question mark attached to when that is. Because I'm not seeing my family over Christmas. I'm seeing them at New Year's, so I won't be able to record around New Year's either, which is like when we probably would have done that otherwise. So it's all up in the air right now. So bear with us. We'll come back to it. But in the meantime, thanks very much. Very, very much for listening. If you've ever listened to as much as a minute of any of our content, we love you to bits. You guys are the best. Obviously, all the usual: comment, like, subscribe, review, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. I don't know if they have a review system, but we'd love for you to check us out there, because we're starting to see a lot of traction from that, because they've got a recommendation system built into their platform, obviously. So the more you listen to us, the more they're recommending us to other people, which is really cool. Things like that really do make a difference. Obviously, check out our podcast, Nothing But Static. We just put up an episode. No, we don't. We're not yet. This week, following this, you're going to see an episode where we talk about Dolomite Is My Name and The Irishman.
That's the 29th.
Yes, 29th. That should be going up. In fact, that will be going up. I've already edited it, and it's already uploaded and programmed, because I'll be away that week. So I've pre-put that one up. I've not edited these yet, obviously. That's my next big job. Yay! I have a day off tomorrow, and I'm going to spend it editing these and recording some Unleash the Light. Woo! And I'm working Christmas Day this year, so my Christmas has been absolutely kicked in the teeth. I said to Nadia yesterday, I was like, there's no Christmas for Dan this year. I'm just going to pretend like I've had a really long year and have Christmas next year instead. And I'm going to make a real point next year of like clearing the schedule, booking the time off work, doing it properly, because this year I'm going to be waking up. This is the saddest thing. I'm going to be waking up alone in my house Christmas morning and then trudging into work. It'll be me and the cat. And my Christmas dinner is most likely to be pizza.
Hopefully there'll be a blitz spirit about the whole thing. Hopefully.
Well, I'm hoping to just pretend that it's not a thing. And the funny thing is, I said this the other day, which is like all these years they've been doing Doctor Who Christmas specials, and I've been having to try and fit them in around family and stuff. And I finally not having, like, I'm home and I'm not going to be around the family, so I'm not going to have trouble fitting it in. There isn't a Doctor Who Christmas special. In fact, there's a New Year's one, which is when I'll be seeing my family.
Amazing.
Yeah. Although I'm not that excited about it, because Chibnall's Doctor Who.
Yeah, like literally on Graham Norton, on the episode with Graham Norton with Jodie Whittaker, he was like, apparently this is like the biggest and most spectacular episode of Doctor Who that you've ever done. And literally out loud, I just went, oh, fuck off, will it be?
Yeah, for sure. Different story. Anyway, but my point is, anyway, again, I'll put my little violin away, tie that up. But anyway, thank you everyone for taking the time to listen.
Yeah, I hope it goes the other way. I hope people don't just pretend it's not Christmas Day. I hope instead there's a there's a positive warmth of Christmas Day feeling in the air.
Yeah, I'm going to have to bring that to work when I work because, my staff will need that. But when I'm here at my house, I'm going to be pretending Christmas doesn't exist because otherwise that's going to be, while on my own, that's going to be... That's gonna be rough. Like some of my family have sent presents, and I'm probably not gonna open them Christmas morning because I don't want to wake up on my own and sadly open presents and have no one to share the excitement of those with. Because that's just the saddest idea in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's rough. So instead, I'm going to pretend it doesn't exist, go to work, pretend it does exist, wear a Santa hat or reindeer ears or whatever for the whole day, telling everyone Merry Christmas and being all cheerful and all that, and then I'm going to come home and go to sleep and pretend that it didn't happen. So I get paid very handsomely for working Christmas Day, which is nice, but it doesn't quite make up for the loss of the day. No. Anyway, that is me putting my violin away. But thank you everyone for listening. You're the best. We'll speak to you in the new year. But we were over 100,000. Was it 200,000? I think we had either 100 or 200,000 downloads of the podcast on audio platforms this year. That does not include our YouTube views.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
That's insane. Like, you people are the best.
Yeah, absolutely you are.
So thank you so much for supporting as we go. But yeah, that's everything for this week. So thank you very much. I've been Dan Doolan.
I've been Chris Billingham.
And come back to us in the new year when we discuss Little Graduation.